Good? Great, all right. Welcome, everybody, to December 4th Board of Education meeting. Welcome. Thank you, and sorry for the delay. Are we late? We are. Sorry for the delay. I'll ask you all to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Kavanaugh, would you lead us in the pledge?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, just please take note of the emergency exits. There's one in the back of the room and the door you came through to get in. If the event of an emergency, please leave in an orderly fashion through these exits. This is a smoke-free and vape-free school district. Smoking and vaping is not permitted in the building or anywhere on school grounds. This is also a hate-free and bully-free school district. Moving on to item C, board consent agenda.
Thank you, President Puccini. The administration recommends approval of board consent items reflected in Schedule C1 through C3.
C1 through C3, can I have a motion? Mr. Barry, seconded by Mr. Lillo. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Anne, are you in favor? Yes.
Motion carries unanimous.
Wait,
Thank
I
you.
didn't hear anything. I didn't know you were doing anything.
Okay, they just made a motion for
Item C, the consent agenda.
C1 through 3.
Yeah, but I didn't have any sounds until right now.
Okay, so are you in favor of item C, 1 through 3?
Yes.
Okay, the
Yes.
motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Sorry, folks, we have one trustee who is remote via Zoom tonight. I forgot to mention that earlier. Moving on to item D, communication announcement, to the superintendent's report.
Yes, sir. Oh, glasses on, glasses off. All right, thank you. Sorry again for the delay. We'll get right to it with the superintendent's report. Happy Wednesday night and happy board meeting night. So getting started really quickly, we had a great few weeks here at Bellport. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out to our high school performers who put a very whimsical play, 10 Ways to Survive the End of the World, which included different scenarios, including meteors, bombs, robots, bunnies, and aliens that apparently love pugs. So the show was silly in a good way, because I do think we need some silliness. So I just want to give a shout out to the director, Brian Gawler, our producer, Barbara Gallagher, costumes by Alicia Ferrara, and the sound by Tom Curcio. The students did a great job and were enthusiastic and had a great time just sitting back and laughing at sort of the silly plot. And I'm not sure their techniques would work, but it was worth the night and the entertainment. I was also very impressed at our first winter concert. We were kicking off our concert season of the winter at the high school with our first winter concert that featured our jazz band, who were fantastic under the direction of Miss Wasson, our Trevor Choir, under the direction of Mr. Finnegan, and accompanist Janine Nunez, and also our string orchestra conductor, who is Ms. Valenti. They did a great job, and Dan Rouse, who did the symphonic band. It was a great night of music. And always impressed by the number of students who participate. So again, big shout out to our music staff, who didn't stop there. They had a second winter concert, which was also fantastic. First and foremost, our 9th grade orchestra was just ridiculously big. I couldn't believe how many kids are participating, which is fantastic to me. They sounded awesome, so big shout out to Kyle Sherlock. He's a conductor for our 9th grade orchestra. We also had our mixed chorus, which is a larger group, also conducted by Mr. Finnegan, and accompanied by Grace Anderson. We had our wind ensemble, which was conducted by Miss Wasson, our concert orchestra, which was conducted by Miss Valenti, and then they joined forces for our symphony, which is fantastic. It was a combination of our orchestra kids and our band kids, and just the sound that really was coming out of those kids was pretty fantastic. It was an amazing xylophone solo that was pretty remarkable to behold. So big shout out to our music staff for everything they do, not just in terms of putting on a great show, but just the impact they have on so many students as evidenced by the pictures. I also got to attend the curriculum fair at Bellport High School, which is a lot of fun. I got my passport so I could travel around the various departments, And really what I loved about it was the enthusiasm by both staff and students about their content areas. You know, I always get weirded out by the fetal pig that they were dissecting live. I don't know if I appreciated that. But it was great to see everything from health and PE to our tech kids, science, math. I got challenged to a game of Connect 4 by our math students, and after a very tense 10 minutes, I lost. So I did not enjoy that very much. The young man, he was a sophomore, he beat me fair and square. We were down to 2 chips. That's how intense the game was. But big shout out to Beth Doyle, our district directors, our teachers, and our students, really for putting a great program together for our community. I also had the honor, pun intended, of attending our National Honor Induction Ceremony, which was hosted by our advisors, Ms. Hines and Ms. Paniagua. Really a fantastic night where we celebrate character, service, leadership, and scholarship. This little event is run entirely by the students, which I really dig. They did a fantastic job, the officers. I also had the pleasure of attending National Junior Honor Society, which is advised by Ms. Cooley and Ms. Garcia. They did a great job. What I love about the middle school sort of motto is each of the kids who were called up, they kind of articulate what their goals are and ambitions. So it was great to see kids saying things like chemical engineer. One kid, literally, their goal was to pay off their dad's house. I was like, can we adopt them? So fantastic. And what I love about middle school kids, I took a picture with the officers, is they are middle school kids and they want to make funny faces. Can't really see it, but yeah, they are characters, so they certainly embody character. Some more South Country happenings. Ella Mason competed at states, upstate. I wanted to thank our athletic director, Mr. Sotelli, Alec Johnson, Daniel Jennings, and Phil Pitano, who are their coaches, who are traveling all the way upstate to watch Ella compete. She placed, I believe, 40 out of a couple hundred students, so she did great, so good source of Clipper pride. Also, big shout out to Mr. Grassi and Athletes Helping Others. They participated in a polar plunge on the North Shore. Unfortunately, it was one of my bucket lists to do a polar plunge, but they didn't allow us in the water because the currents were too strong. Instead, we got sprayed by a hose. So I don't know if that counts, so I may have to redo it. But they did this to raise money for Special Olympics, which I think is a great cause, and a big shout out to our athletes. One of the things I stumbled upon during the curriculum fair was South Shore Girls Wrestling. They were practicing during the fair, and I happened to walk into the wrestling room. And it was great to see, number one, how many girls are participating in wrestling, but the fact that Bellport is hosting what we're calling South Shore Girls Wrestling, that's comprised of 6 different school districts, and if you include us, it's actually 7 school districts who have joined forces to put this program together. There's a lot of scholarship opportunities opening up for our female athletes in wrestling, so that was great to see. More cute for Thanksgiving, we had balloons over Broadway at Kramer Elementary School. The kids brought in their own floats and paraded down the hallways. These were kindergarten kids, and it was pretty lovely. Our middle school store is open for business. We're really excited about that. That's part of our PBIS initiatives and just incentivizing students who make positive choices. They can earn Clipper cash that can be used to redeem things at the school store. I bought a little bracelet there that was made by our special needs students that says Clipper Pride. So happy to get that off and running. So a big shout out to the staff members and students who participated in getting that started. And one of my favorite things I've done so far, not that everything's not my favorite, along with Ms. Doyle, we got invited to the very first Bow Tie Thursday at Frank P. Long in Mr. Perkins' class. And the students interviewed Ms. Doyle and I on various questions regarding our careers, our responsibilities. One of my favorite questions was, what is the school district's budget? And I said $143 million, and they all thought it was my money. Like, no, what do you do with all that money? I was like, it's amazing how much, and then when I said it was annually, they were just shocked. But they were great, they wore their bow ties, they had little questions for both Ms. Doyle and I. So it was a really great event, and the idea is to sort of teach responsibility, to model things from professionals, so they invite different people into their classroom where students get an opportunity to interview them. So a big shout out to Mr. Perkins, really enjoyed that. Also really happy about the South Country Education Foundation and the fall grants that we've been afforded. Just to give you a glimpse of some of the grants we got a grant so that our high school students could participate in storytelling and art at the Whitney Museum of Modern Art in the city, which is a fantastic space. If anybody has not visited, it really is a lovely, beautiful museum right at the end of the High Line. We are going to be portraying some drones for kids at Frank P. Long. It's part of a STEM education, so they'll be manipulating the drones. I know there's been some controversy over New Jersey with drones that have been apparently hovering around Jersey. So we're not gonna teach our kids that, but we're gonna have some fun with some drones. Also, Cubelets are basically these programmable cubes that teach coding and robotics. We're gonna purchase some for kids at Vern W. Crits. We're also having a guest speaker come in, which is a found object knit sculpture artist, Kathleen Granados, who's gonna be working with kids at the elementary school about her artwork. We're gonna be exploring nature and agriculture at the Suffolk County Farm. These are for kindergarten kids at Brookhaven. First graders at Kramer are going to be visiting Mama's Farm right here in our area to learn about art. They're going to be seeing a display by artist Jay Sylvester at the farm and also taking a nature walk. Our 11th grade students who read The Great Gatsby are going to have an opportunity to attend the Broadway musical, The Great Gatsby, which is also great. One of our elementary schools in multiple grades and multiple buildings will be taking a field trip to the Vanderbilt Museum and Planetarium. Local favorite, kids get to go down to Cafe Costello and learn how to make pizza. These are kindergarten students. Another great trip, which I think would be great for our kindergarten students, is going to be a trip to the Long Island Science Center, where they're going to be learning about the physics of toys. Along those lines, our high school students will be visiting the Museum of Mathematics. I once, actually one of the board members in one of my former districts was the founder of that museum, so I remember it was first constructed. It's a great space. We're also going to be purchasing estimation station materials for our elementary school kids that teach math skills. But overall, the South Country Education Foundation donated in grants a little over $66,500. So I just wanted to give them recognition. I don't know if anybody's here from the foundation or not. But again, a big shout out. These are just a few examples of the many things that we're going to be using the money towards. And what I really liked about this round of grants was the fact that a lot of it was geared to our special needs students who are going to be afforded opportunities outside of the district for them to sort of learn things and be exposed to the cultural things. So big shout out to the South Country Education Foundation. All these great things you can learn about by following our various social media handles. We have various groups in our school district that post, from our Ms. Doyle to myself to our various school buildings, teams, our classes. So please visit our website. And I'll get back to how you can access those social media handles. But I did want to talk about something pretty cool, and which is EF Educational Tours, which is basically giving access to our South Country community to embark on travel learning. As you know, I partook in an educated trip this summer to Asia, to Japan and South Korea, which was an extremely moving and trip that really changed my perspective on a lot of things, which was really valuable. This year we have 2 trips going to Europe. During February break, we have a group of students going to Italy. They'll be visiting Venice, Florence, and Cinque Terre. And during April break, we have students from the high school visiting Paris, Normandy, and London. What I want to announce is for the summer of 2026, we're going to have a trip going to Costa Rica. I spoke to EF Tours because I was interested in perhaps leading a trip and joining in this experience with our students. I want to emphasize that EF Tours is an independent company. It's not a trip sanctioned by the district. We just give access to our community to participate in it. This itinerary is going to be pretty amazing. It's going to include cooking classes, zip lining through the rainforest, snorkeling, cultural exchanges, a boat tour through the wildlife refuge, a couple of hikes in the jungle, and even whitewater rafting. And what really struck me about this particular trip is it's really not technology driven, it's not city or urban driven. It's a great opportunity to really see the beauties of nature and appreciate science, and also the culture of Costa Rica with so many Spanish speaking students and students who speak Spanish. We'll be having a virtual information meeting on this trip on December 10th. We sent out an email to our high school families alerting them to that trip. And again, this is scheduled for the summer of 2026, which is about a year and a half away. And the reason we schedule it with so much time is because it gives students who are interested ample opportunity to raise money to pay toward the trips. Speaking to that, I'm really excited that Michelle Ahaus is here. Michelle Ahaus is the Director of Strategic Partnerships at EF Tours. And one of the things EF Tours is working on is creating partnerships with BOCES that will make these trips more accessible because they'll become aidable. So I'm going to give Michelle about 10 minutes to kind of speak about that plan, because one of the things we want to emphasize is equity and access for all our students. So I wanted to sort of have, sort of share a little bit of how that works, or how that may work in the future, so. come up. Sure.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to share a little bit more. As Tony said, our commitment to creating accessible and scalable opportunities for as many students as possible throughout Long Island, New York, and the country. Part of that, as a company, we've been around for 60 years. We're a family-owned company, and mission-wise, believe that, by opening the world through education, we help to understand each other better. And we see students, we see educators come back developing not only future-ready skills like collaboration and communication and problem-solving, but also developing more empathy for each other and for themselves. And rumor has it the world could use just a little more empathy these days. But I've worked for EF for 9 years now. And throughout my time predominantly working with New York, one of my commitments has been how can we create even more access? How can we ensure that students from all corners of the building have the opportunity? And so often financial barriers are a big part of that. I think there are also cultural barriers and other spaces where kids don't feel like they see themselves in these trips. And so when we talk about scalable programs, we talk about these ideas that it's not a one-off, it's not a, I wonder if there'll be a thing next year, or am I in that class with that teacher, that I know about this. So it's about creating this program that is year after year, students can come to understand and families can come to understand how to partake in these experiences, and that students can see themselves in these experiences throughout their middle school and high school careers. So we had the opportunity to start partnering with some BOCES upstate in Western New York. We had a superintendent who said, this is something all of our kids need. And so he started working with Sea Valley BOCES, and we were accepted under the Arts and Education and Exploratory coasters to say that between 35 and 60% of the tour price, the program price, would be considered aidable. So we went through and itemized, we understood, I learned slightly to speak BOCES dialect, I'm still working on it, but understanding the elements that needed to be kicked out, right, that were considered non-aidable, so the transportation, the accommodations, and the meals. One could argue trying new foods is extremely educational, but I'm not going to argue with state ed. So that landed us in the space, really looking by continent to keep it simple. So we have about 300 different itineraries that are classified across different curricular collections. So everything from STEM and career readiness, language and culture, history, etc. So we said, in looking at it, how to determine this. So as one can imagine, farther away you are, Asia, Africa, South Pacific, that's going to be 35% aidable. Europe is 40% aidable, and then Central South America is 55% aidable. And then certain things like our service learning and our global leadership summit are 60% aidable. And so the goal really is just to help to drive the opportunity to generate state aid rather, to help fuel programming. And as Tony reflected, we're planning these trips so far in advance as another way to create access. So EF is, if you will, fronting the discount that we know. We go through the math together and say, this is how much is earned, these are the number of students, and everyone verifies that number. And then we'll put that up at the beginning so that parents can say, I see what that price is, that takes down some of the barriers for me, and now dividing this out over 14, 16, 18 months can figure out not only from fundraising, but okay, my kiddo's gonna shovel some snow or get a part-time job, something that helps again to lay that experience out and make it more accessible. I think one of the things to note too is that EF is the only educational tour provider that has been co-cert for this, particularly for international, and it's because of our deep educational value. So we're a fully accredited institution, so we can issue high school credit for students when they do project-based work at no cost. So it's probably not a make or break for students to graduate, but what it is a transcript, so if they are on that college track, they can use that in their application period. So we're really excited. We're really excited for the opportunities and as we start to work with more BOCES, and we are co-served by Eastern Suffolk BOCES and currently in conversations with both Western Suffolk and Nassau BOCES as well. Any questions?
Questions from the board, anyone? Thank you.
And Ms. Ahouse just happened to be, she's based out of Boston, but happened to be in the area, so I said, why don't you come by and to share a few thoughts. And again, the goal is to really, in speaking to other superintendents that have travel programs, it really yields like lifelong memories. I know a couple of trustees here have had children who participated. And I traveled in Asia, full disclosure, with Michelle Ahouse. She was on my trip, she led the tour, so I really learned a lot from it. So I'm excited, I hope students sign up. A lot of opportunities for me to hurt myself on this trip, but I'm gonna be a good sport. And again, for me as a superintendent, there's a couple of superintendent peers I have who go on trips with their students. I think it's a great bonding experience. And again, not sanctioned by the school district, it's an outside EF Tours, it's a private company. So we're just gonna provide the opportunities for kids here to give access. Really quickly, I'm just gonna close with our strategic planning process. Our survey has closed. I was really happy with the amount of responses. We had 769 people participate in the survey. 505 thoughts were included and 22,252 ratings on those thoughts. And basically what this generated was priority areas for our school district that we're going to continually work on as this process continues. But I just wanted to give the board and the community just sort of a preview of what's to come. The 3 priority areas that were identified through the survey was, number 1 was academic excellence, which is rigorous coursework, curriculum development, and class size. Number 2, the student experience, which includes mental health, accountability, and behavioral support, and opportunities and experiences. And number 3, which is operations, which includes staff support and morale, our facilities, and communication. So we're going to schedule a community meeting for January 9th, 2025 as a culminating activity. I want to thank the trustees who participated. We had a retreat on Monday, and really give a shout out to our administrative staff. Almost every administrator in our district participated and was here for that meeting and our retreat. We kind of just shared some of our thoughts. And what I really thought was special about that meeting was the fact that almost all of us were on the same page in terms of what we want. Right now, we want our achievement. We have so much room for growth, for academic achievement. We want to provide a sort of atmosphere for students that's equitable, where all of our students feel like they belong. But not just that, they belong and they feel like they have dignity and they also achieve. So I'm looking forward to continuing this process, and thank you trustees for who participated. And again, a big shout out to our administrative team who were there. And that concludes my report. Lots of ways to get in touch. Our community portals and our website. You can subscribe to Blackboard Connect. All of our social media links, or most of them, we're going to look to see if we updated. It's right on our first page of our website. Ironically, I still have the picture from Japan up there. The Superintendent's Corner is there. It's a monthly update, my contact info, my social media handles, as well as my weekly blog entry that I provide our staff and community. But as always, thank you for your support, and it really is a pleasure serving you all as Superintendent of Schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to trustee and advisory committee reports. I'll start with our student member, Mr. Grega.
So we have our December food drive starting. It's running until December 18th. We just wrapped up our November food drive. We raised a lot for members of our community, which was great. We selected days for our Holiday Spirit Week, which include Holiday Character Day, Holiday Color Day, Holiday Hat Day, Ugly Sweater Day, and Holiday Pajama Day, which I have to say Pajama Day is definitely our favorite. We're selling holiday candy cane grams to students within the district, so we're looking forward to that. Elf letters, the elf letters from the elementary schools have started to come in, so it's really cute to see what the younger kids are asking for Christmas. But the student council is writing letters to every kid in each elementary school, which is nice. And then we're looking to plan a winter gear drive for January, which includes collecting winter coats, mittens, gloves, and other winter items. And that's all I have, and happy holidays.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Can I ask about the elf letters?
Yeah,
Could you go into a little more detail on that?
So the kids in South Haven, Brookhaven, Kramer, Vernkritz, and Frank P., they write us letters to elves, and we asking what they want for Christmas, and the student council members write letters back to them as like elves, and they get delivered back to the elementary school where the candy came. So, yeah. So,
Is that a new program this year?
no, we did it last year as well. So.
I don't think they did it.
Sam. Yes, Sam did it a few years.
Yeah.
Is there like any elf grammar you use, or is there any?
Yeah, definitely.
I was wondering.
Definitely elf names, elf grammar. But yeah, it's really nice to do, and it's cute to see what
Kids
they
have
want for
fun.
Christmas.
Yeah, that's great, I love that.
Isn't every day pajama day in the middle school and high school?
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, like, they say pajama day,
Yeah.
you drop your kids off to
Yeah,
high
it's
school.
definitely-
They're all wearing pajamas and slippers. I mean,
Yeah.
I think every young lady that walks into the high school is wearing Ugg slippers or some
Yeah.
sort of slipper,
Yeah.
for sure. As are some of the boys. It's fascinating to me how kids wear slippers everywhere. So, anyway, thank you.
Exactly.
Ms. Felice?
Sure, thank you. Spent a lovely day at Frank P. Long, reading to 5 classrooms. So that was out of my comfort zone. I don't like to read in front of anyone. But I was supposed to read the 4 classes, and they made my comfort zone even worse because they gave me 5 classes. But it worked out very well. I had a wonderful day there, and look forward to doing it again. Took a webinar, refresher course on the roles of a Board of Education member and also on budgeting, so that was something I enjoyed very much. Also attended some of the concerts that the superintendent spoke about in his report. Concert number 1 at the high school, which was, again, just phenomenal. Our musicians in our district are just, in my opinion, second to none. I was only able to get to concert number 1. And because concert number 2, I was conflicted. I wanted to get to it, but I was offered an opportunity to go to an interfaith Thanksgiving session with all the local churches, and it was held at Temple Bethel. So I chose to go to that one with a lot of the community members that I'm involved with. So equally as important, but I was conflicted over having to miss the concert. Also attended the drama, which understood, 9 ways to, outlive the end of the world. I don't know that any of them would have worked, but the kids did seem to enjoy the drama play. So looking forward to their musical come the winter time. And I think that's it. Yeah, that was it. So thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Lowell?
I too wanted to give a shout out to our students for the drama production. I did find myself chuckling more than I thought I was going to, just because it was the kids were so into it, they were having so much fun. It just made me laugh. The high school concerts were both phenomenal. I love the music, and I love the combination of the band and orchestra now and the symphonic. That's something new and fun. The induction ceremony for National Honor Society, again, like Mr. Santana said, it's great that the kids run the ceremony. The 2 advisors, all they did was just let them know when the next line should go up to the stage. But the 4 officers ran it. A couple things on board member things. Went to training session with Mr. Santana and Trustee Hayes about difficult conversations. One of the phrases that came out that I feel is important, that kind of resonated, was successful groups know how to fight gracefully. So it's okay to disagree, just have tact, have respect. The other thing, I went on a webinar yesterday for the state budget preview. The Rockefeller report came out. Can't wait to get more information on that regarding state aid. That should be coming in the next couple of days, so trickling out. And my Brookhaven report, again, I got to read to a couple classes over the last few weeks. It was great. Sam came with me, my oldest. Last week we got to visit with her 1st grade teacher's class, so it was like total flashback. She actually visioned herself sitting in the chair, and the kids were like, "You had her?" And they're like, "Yeah." that just blew their minds. It's like, oh. In addition to that, just a reminder that if you like fresh flowers, this is the season. If you buy the Blooming for Good bouquet at the Stop and Shop on Sills Road, $1 of the bouquet goes to the food pantry, so you can help neighbors. Along the same line, they did to help their turkey, kids decorated a turkey and donated $1. Through that effort, they collected $680, again, to help families in need, which was great, with gift cards for the grocery stores. And the other thing is, this Saturday is Winter Wonderland at Brookhaven. It starts at 9 o'clock, runs until about 12. Very informal, light refreshments, open to the public. There'll be some vendors there, so please come on in and see. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Kavanaugh?
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Hayes, do you have anything?
Yes. It was a really busy 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, and comments have already been made about the middle school honor society induction as well as the high school honor society induction. I was lucky to go to both of them. I went into the high school drama and was really impressed with the energy that I saw on the stage up there. And along with Debbie, I had some chuckles that evening as well, and I appreciated that. I went also to the Difficult Conversations training program, and felt like I got a lot out of it, and if we can incorporate some of the things that we picked up, I think it will help. As Debbie said about successful groups know how to, I think you used the word fight gracefully. I interpret these things as how to disagree gracefully. And the other nice thing that I noticed was at the curriculum fair, and I did get to go into the gym and see the wrestling event, the girls wrestling. It was crowded. There was not room for any extraneous person in there, so I could only look through the door, but it was really nice to see students from other districts who were training in our gym. So thank you for whoever organized that. I wanted to thank again the South Country Education Foundation for their grants that they awarded, and I'm really gratified to hear about how many of the grants are being used to cover the cost of local field trips, because there's such a wealth of opportunity of places to visit in our area, and I'm glad the students are having a chance to take advantage of that. And then one surprise was the weekend before Thanksgiving, on a very blustery, cold day, there were at least 6 or 7 students from the high school. I think it was the Interact Club and also one of the honor societies. I think it may have been the Math Honor Society. They were collecting food for people in the community, and they were out there in really unpleasant weather, but doing good for the community, and I was really uplifted to encounter them. So I thank them for that. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Mr. Barry?
Yeah, at the risk of repeating everything that's already been repeated, I just wanted to emphasize, how grateful I am to the community for participating in the strategic plan. I think that's something that the district has long needed, and I think, it's very, I'm excited by the preliminary findings of that. And again, just wanted to echo and encourage people to participate in the January 9th event, and wanted to encourage the district to make sure to publicize this as much as we can, because really it is giving a voice to some of those people who may not feel as though they have a voice, but really to do it in a productive way that hopefully will strengthen the school. And as many of you know how passionate I am about rigor in our schools, I love seeing that as number one, as being an important factor in ways that we can work together to help the district strengthen that area.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I only have a couple of quick things. Yes, I just want to echo a little bit on the strategic plan, and thank you to those who participated. It is important, you know, to have your voice heard. It is incredibly important. So, you know, the old saying, if you don't have a seat at the table, you might end up on the menu. So I do as well encourage anybody to show up on January 9th and take an active role in your child's education and our community. That was that. I do, Mr. Lillo mentioned the Rockefeller Institute report. I did just forward it to the board. I know the district should have it. I didn't realize you didn't yet. So I sent the board, well, 3 emails because the first one was a mistake. The Nassau Suffolk School Board Association took the summary pages and combined it into, I think, 12 or 13 pages, which the full report is 314 pages. So, but I did send the full report in a follow-up email as well, so we can take a look at that. I haven't read any of it. I've just heard some initial reaction that it does come out favorably for schools, that it does look, some of the recommendations are pretty good. So it sounds like there is some positivity that will come out of it. And there was something else too this week. It was interesting too, in the same time, because it talks about foundation aid. The governor announced today, or was it yesterday, that she will rethink the plan to lower state aid based on enrollment. And that is really, really important, and that's incredibly encouraging. It's always nice when we're coming into an election time, or when it nears, because that's usually when schools get funded. So there was an article in one of the papers today, and I think you sent it to me, right? Well, maybe we can circulate that in the update so everybody has that and reads through those comments.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah,
about that?
sure.
Who in your cabinet is gonna be going through that 300 and some odd page report?
So we're all gonna do it. So
Okay.
basically what we're waiting is various organizations are gonna summarize it. NICET, I look at Pat Brady over there, will summarize it. NISCUS, which is the Association of School Superintendents, is already working on it. REFIT, which is the Reform Educational Financing Inequities Today, which I'm on the board on. We're gonna be analyzing it, so we're sort of waiting for everybody's analysis.
I'm sure we're gonna get something pretty quick from New York State School Boards. That's probably coming, I would think, within the next couple days.
Attorneys, and Gerson and Gersio, they're on it and sort of, you know, summarizing it. So I think we're gonna get a lot of summaries. You know, I'm not gonna print it out because it's like 300 pages, but I'm gonna read through the summaries first. And I feel like it's gonna be my weekend relaxing reading. But it's pretty comprehensive. We were talking about it this meeting, this morning I had a superintendent's meeting, and just initial reactions, and we were all trying to skim to find like the important pieces. But it's pretty complicated, so, you know, we wanna sort of wait for the Cliff Notes versions, and then go back to the actual document with like something to reference.
Yeah,
But
which
we all have a stake in terms of cabinet, we all have a stake in.
Yeah, so hopefully that summarization that Nassau Suffolk did for you will at least, you know, kick that off, because that came out pretty quick. They beat everybody, so, which is great. I guess Bob's a little, not busy these days. Okay, I'm trying to think if I have anything else. If I did, I missed it. Do we have any yellow cards for trustees? We do not, so no, we'll move on to item F for discussion and action.
Thank you, President Puccini. So the first item there is policy 3421, Title IX, and sex discrimination. We put it up for initial reading and a resolution because the policy included an individual's name. And so we wanted to make sure we just noted a title versus an individual's name. And that's the recommendation, is to adopt it in its new form where it doesn't have a specific person's name.
So that's the only change. Am I reading all of this? Want me to start at the beginning, or can I start at the second whereas?
It's from the beginning.
It's from the beginning, okay. You ready? Whereas the South Country Central School District Policy 1410, Policy and Administrative Regulations, provides the adoption of a written policy shall occur only after the proposal has been moved discussed and voted on affirmatively at 2 separate meetings of the Board of Education. An example would be the first reading and the second reading. And such policy further provides the board may waive the second reading and complete the adoption of the proposed policy at its first reading by a majority vote. And whereas the Board of Education has determined policy 3421, Title IX and sexual discrimination should each be amended immediately without a first reading. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Education temporarily suspends policy number 1410 with respect to the First Amendment of policy number 3421. And be it further resolved, the Board of Education hereby amends policy 3421 and adopts said policy as amended. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Felice, seconded by Ms. Kavanaugh. Is there any discussion? Any discussion from Ms. Hayes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Moving on.
So regionalization, another thing that came out this week is that the commissioner sort of said that regionalization was going to be optional in terms of participating in the data collection. The reason I put it as an item for discussion, and this came up this morning, is we've already done the legwork to provide the data that the state requested. And we're ready to submit it. And talking to some superintendents, ironically from the East End, there was a lot of discourse around regionalization and fears. I know some of the elected officials were somewhat concerned. My standpoint at this point is that there is no harm in submitting the data because in many regards, some districts already participate in some of the things that they sort of are proposing. Or wrestling is an example of it, where multiple districts are sharing resources for a common good. But at this point, it's optional and, it's non-committal. So the reason that I wanted to bring it up is to see the board's feelings on whether or not we proceed with submitting the report. Like I said, the work has already been done, it's already been submitted, but I wanted to see if anybody had any strong opinions in favor or against submitting the report, which is basically just an assessment of what our resources are and our vision is in our current district.
I have a couple of comments, but I'll open the floor first. Anybody have comments on this?
Well, and my understanding of regionalization and sharing resources is we're a smaller district.
Right.
So we have more to gain than to lose.
So ironically, yes, so a lot of the East End districts that I sat with today feel that way, and they share resources. Southold and Greenport share a director of technology. Mattituck and Greenport share an athletic director. I know in the North Shore schools share resources, but there's a lot of open-ended questions as how that would look like in a grander scale. And I think really the impetus for this was for rural districts upstate. We're surrounded by bigger districts, Pat Med to our west, Longwood to the north, and William Floyd to the east, who have bigger programs and more resources than we do. So your point is probably correct. If anything, we have something to gain from it, but we don't know what it's going to look like. And so in reality, all we're doing is providing data and sharing the types of programs we have in South Country.
So providing the data doesn't obligate us.
I'm going to say the same thing Cheryl said, so she did it, which is great. I do think that there is more to gain for our district, clearly based on what we have. And again, I think the sharing of data is not a bad thing.
So from my perspective on it, and I don't necessarily have a problem with sharing data. I find it interesting though that, you read through it, the governor made sharing the data made that optional.
Correct.
Nothing else thus far. And I did have a few conversations with State Senator Murray on this. He had signed on to the letter to SED and to the governor a few weeks ago. There was a press conference, and I called him and I was a little concerned as to why he signed on, because I believe a lot of the narrative around regionalization is completely false, and it's being circulated by some districts who typically fight the state on every little thing, whether it was COVID regulations or mascots, et cetera. But he brought up a couple of good points that, and what his opinion was on it. And the group of senators have requested an audience with SED to answer some questions. And the two main questions are, what was the need for the emergency proclamation to move up the timeline by a year? I mean, that's like, that should be answered. by those in power. That was number one. Number two, when that happens, it gives the governor extra powers over specific things, and we kind of saw that during COVID for emergency proclamations, et cetera, and it kind of removed some oversight from the legislature, so they're a little bit of concerned about that. Apparently as well, there is some language within the regulations and such that's come down that has given room for some elected officials to pause. So they have asked for state ed to come in and talk about it and answer some of their questions before they decide how they want to move forward. So it was described to me as not necessarily a flat-out protest. I'm sure there are some politicians who are glamming up for the cameras and for the constituents and just want to fight anything that comes out of the governor's office or SED. But I don't get that that's really what's moving that effort amongst the senators, and I don't know where the assembly is on it as well. So I've seen a number of letters. I shared one with the superintendent. I don't know if we sent it to the board, that a couple of districts, this one particularly was Smithtown's, and you know, it was very well written. There was a letter, a position letter sent out by the Nassau Suffolk School Board, which I think all the board members should have seen by now. And it basically said, we agree with everything there, and these are the points we want clarified. I thought it was well done. I thought it was somewhat neutral, so I don't want to jump on the bandwagon and protest. I don't want to jump on the bandwagon and support it. I would like to just move along cautiously. So I don't have a problem with this, because if we have to do it, we have to do it. And to Mr. Santana's point, this really isn't a downstate problem. This is an upstate problem, because even if we are a small district, there's very few things we can't provide, right? I know there's some foreign languages. There's probably, I mean, I think our AP participation has increased over the years. So there are some things, and basically BOCES is regionalization. So, you know, and we are fortunate downstate to have proximity to BOCES programs that we can send our kids to, and we can give them those opportunities. But upstate, they don't have that, because some districts are separated by hundreds of miles, and some of them only have less than 100 kids in the district. So how do you have an AP bio class when you only have one kid? How do you pay a teacher, et cetera? So we get it. So that's where the issue is. But there's so much that has to be ironed out to this. Like, I don't know how you know, foot the tax bill from one community to send kids from another. I mean, there's so much that has to be kind of worked out. And the fear, and I don't, like, you keep hearing people talk about combining school districts and, you know, one school district for Suffolk County, one for that. I mean, there's nothing in that that even hints at that, other than the really poor choice of names. Like, regionalization sounds like that, all those things. They probably just should have called it shared services. Regionalization sounds a little stupid to me, I mean, but we've seen SED do things like this before. So I would hope that, you know, we comply with what we have to, and, you know, and what's inconsequential, and that we just proceed cautiously, and we consider, I would prefer to wait till after the new year, and then the first meeting, really consider what our position will be, and just see what else comes out of it. I think we should comply with this, in my opinion. I think we should hear what comes out of the group of senators who have asked for more information, and I really think we need to see what happens when the budget process really starts and where this all fits in. That's just my personal opinion. So if anybody else has any comments or questions on
So
it.
you're saying withhold sending the.
No, I think we should, listen, it's inconsequential, right? It doesn't help us, doesn't hurt us. And, you know, just because they said we don't have to do it, doesn't mean we shouldn't, right? Because if regionalization happens, we're probably not gonna have a leg to stand on it. I mean, I think there's a lawsuit out there now from some of these districts, and, you know, it's kind of getting ugly really quick, and I guess I don't really see it, like, you know, what the issue is.
So we send the data, but we just don't take a position.
I mean, listen, the board can disagree, I just don't, I think it's premature to take a position
Well, we don't
just
have to
yet.
take a position.
We don't have to do anything, no, not at all.
That-
Not at all, and I do think that we should, and I see Ann has her hand up, and I'll get to you as soon as I'm done. And I do think, because when we do craft a message, I do believe we should bring in some stakeholders, and we should have a conversation that's bigger than just those in this room right now about what it is and what we view it and what people's fears are, and we see where it goes, because, I mean, like I said, we're not under the gun to do anything, and even if we are, we're there, we have it. So it doesn't look like it's an encumbrance on our administration through a task. So we're there, let's just proceed cautiously, and nothing's happening, it's December, everybody's getting ready for the holidays, so, you know, so we'll see. I would just, you know, as the budget process goes, we just have to be careful for something getting slipped into the budget bill. That's my only fear, and I think the state and the way they've done and passed down some things towards education are, you know, gives us room to pause as to what goes on, so that's just my opinion. Dan, I'm sorry, you had something.
Yeah, you referenced the statement by Nassau Suffolk School Boards Association. And my understanding from what you said is that you thought it was well worded, you know, and it was general, basically saying, that there's some things that needed to be clarified, and there are certain issues that are of particular importance.
Just to clarify, Ann, the letter I was speaking of was the Smithtown School District letter, which basically reaffirms their support for the Nassau Suffolk letter.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that.
No worries.
Because I was wondering if we wanted to support the Nassau Suffolk School Boards Association letter, instead of just sitting back, because of the other school districts who have been doing things, but mainly because it seems to me like they don't really understand what's going on, and it's muddying the water. It's not helpful to any of us, in my opinion. So that was why I was wondering if maybe we wanted to do a letter like Smithtown did, supporting the Nassau Suffolk position.
Get there.
So my question, Ann, is this the letter that we discussed at our last meeting, that we determined really didn't take a position?
For the most part, yes, and the only additional piece that, again, if we can, you have it, right? I sent it. Well, I'll ask the superintendent to put it in the update. I saw the Smithtown School District's letter, and it basically supported that letter with a few additional questions, so we'll circulate that. But to your point,
I just don't feel we can take a position at this.
It's really not, and I don't think it's necessary, like, it's not like, you know, I think a lot of the reason why school districts are doing it is to just let their stakeholders know where they are on the issue. And I think we've talked about it at a number of meetings, at least 2, maybe 3 meetings it's been discussed, maybe not as much as it has tonight, where, you know, the community should have a feel for what our position is on it, but I just think we should wait until January and just see what happens.
I just think it's too early for us to establish
Exactly.
a
We don't
position.
know
We
what
don't
we're
have enough
supposed-
information upon which to base a hard position.
Yeah,
And
I feel like so much is premature in this conversation.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I just wanna make sure Ann didn't have another part to that.
No,
Oh,
I hear
okay.
you.
Okay.
I just wanted to climb on, I mean, of course, I think the state is very unclear with all of this as well. And, you know, there is a certain trepidation anytime you're talking about a state taking an action and a power that is something that they probably aren't capable of really managing in the right way. When you look at our, look at our facilities, and we're waiting for the state for those things, all of those things create a level of distrust that I think many districts have, especially when something's rolled out and it's not clear exactly what it is that they're saying. But I do think it's the right thing for us to participate in what we feel comfortable with, and I don't necessarily know we have to, because quite honestly, their statement is not very clear in terms of what it is that they're looking to do. It's more of it seems almost half-baked coming from them, and I would hate to go back to them with something that would be half-baked response.
And just to be clear, the Nassau Suffolk School Board's letter is purposely vague.
Oh,
Yeah.
and-
Let's put it that way. Like,
Which
just,
makes
you know,
perfect
Makes a lot of
sense.
sense, right?
Makes
And
perfect sense.
it is like it is difficult, right? Especially in association, like Nassau Suffolk, and this was the same way. You know, there's access and there's communication and there's collaboration directly with SED, especially Nassau Suffolk now as compared to years past with new leadership. Like there's a direct line to the commissioner's office now where that didn't really happen before. There's venue. I mean, they had an audience with the governor a few months ago. Like, so it is purposely like, but they do, and I think the biggest piece you'll see in everybody, call it oppositions or whatever, is the desire to preserve local control. And that's what has people concerned, right? We are all elected by our community, by our stakeholders to manage the district, the superintendent and the budget, et cetera. And I think it's just, it's important that, I think local control is important. So, and I think that's what the message is from almost any school board advocacy group, so.
And just to back up also, I don't want to skip over the windows at Vern Critz and some of the other issues for the auditorium.
I'm sorry, Ms. Hayes had a comment?
Which was exactly why I was thinking it might be important to say that we like the approach taken by the Nassau Suffolk School Board Association.
Okay. All right, so let's just get the temperature. Who's in favor of sitting on this till after January? Anybody else? I haven't seen.
I thought we were sending the data though.
The data, yes.
The data.
We're talking about a position statement now.
Okay, yes.
The data, so.
Send the data
okay.
now.
We're all in
position
agreement
Okay,
on
position
Yes,
sending
send
the
the
Okay.
data.
All right, we know where Ann is.
Hold
Ann
off
wants
on
to support the Nassau Suffolk. Okay, all right, it's decided. We're gonna, yes, yeah.
Okay, with regard to the data, we're waiting till after the new year. Is that
No,
right?
the data has a deadline. We have the information done, we're gonna submit the data, because it's inconsequential. We are going to hold off on making a statement on behalf of the district or any type of position on it, on regionalization, until after the holidays, until there's a little bit more time for a little bit more discussion in Albany. Okay? All right, great.
I said unless somebody objects.
Okay, all right, that's regionalization. Moving on to item G, board consent agenda for curriculum.
Correct. The administration recommends approval of curriculum items reflected in schedules G1 through G2.
Can I have a motion? Mr. Lowe, seconded by Mr. Barry. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Item H,
The administration recommends approval of personnel changes reflected in schedules H1 through H9.
H1 through 9. Can I have a motion? Ms. Kavanaugh, seconded by Mr. Lowe. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimous.
Before we continue, I just want to acknowledge one of the persons that we appointed to a teaching or reading position here at Brookhaven Elementary School is here. That's Stephanie Uhas. Did I pronounce that right?
Thank you.
I just wanted to welcome you to the South Country family and thank you for attending the board meeting. Really excited of what, your level of expertise that you're bringing to our reading program. So really happy to have you. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great. Moving on to item I.
The administration recommends approval of business items reflected in schedules I1 through I8.
I1 through 8. Can I have a motion? Mr. Lowell, seconded by Mr. Barry. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. No more cards for non-agenda. Closing remarks, anyone? Anyone? Ann, closing remarks?
Thank
No?
you.
Okay, great. Without further ado, a motion to adjourn. Mr. Barry, seconded by Mr. Lillo. All those in favor? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thanks for coming, everybody.